Toby's concerned that the peaceful solution I brokered in Kashmir last year was the result of a drug-induced haze.
I was there with him. So was Fitz. So was Cashman, Hutchinson, Burial.
Well, that's fantastic.
Toby.
None of you were elected.
I was elected. They were appointed. Vice President was elected. He has the constitutional authority to assume my office.
Not last May. He didn't. He didn't last May when you were under general anesthesia.
Okay, so this is the first part of this scene that bugs me a little bit. Toby says that the vice president didn't have the authority to give orders. Now, technically that's true. However, under Section 4 of the 25th Amendment, which you're seeing on your screen now, it gives the vice president and cabinet the power to make the vice president the acting president if they send a letter to the leaders of Congress stating that the president is unable to discharge their duties.
Because I never signed the letter, but I don't think I got shot because I got MS.
No, I don't think you did either, sir. I meant that during a night of extreme chaos and fear, when we didn't yet know if we'd been the victims of domestic or foreign terrorism, or even an act of war, there was uncertainty as to who was giving the national security orders, and it was because you never signed a letter. So I'm led to wonder, given your condition and its lack of predictability, why there isn't simply a signed letter sitting in a file someplace. And the answer, of course, is that if there was a signed letter sitting in a file someplace, somebody would ask why.
As I've already said, a letter from the president wasn't needed. All that's needed is a letter from the vice president and a majority of the cabinet to allow the vice president to act as the acting president while the president is under general anesthesia or whatever other incapacitation they may have suffered.
The commander-in-chief had just been attacked. He was under a general anesthetic. A fugitive was at large. The manhunt included every federal, state, and local law enforcement agency. The Virginia, Maryland, New Jersey, Pennsylvania, and Delaware National Guard units were federalized. The KH-10s showed Republican Guard movement in southern Iraq. And 12 hours earlier, an F-117 was shot down in the no-fly, and the vice president's authority was murky at best. The National Security Advisor and the Secretary of State didn't know who they were taking their orders from. I wasn't in the Situation Room that night, but I'll bet all the money in my pockets against all the money in your pockets that it was Leo, who no one elected.
Well, Toby, you owe President Bartlet all the money that's in your pockets. Leo was in the Situation Room that night, but he was not the one giving orders. But if you don't believe me, I'll show you.
Thank you.
What do you know?
He'll be out of surgery in about 2 hours. Fitzwallace is on a plane?
Well, he was on his way to Manila. They turned around, and he'll be back in about 4 hours.
We've got him by phone?
Yeah.
Good evening.
Good evening, Mr. McGarry.
Where's the National Security Advisor?
She's on her way, sir.
So is Vice President.
Good evening, everybody.
Ma'am? Good evening.
Mike, could you have somebody send over some clothes from my office, please? I look like an idiot.
Yes, ma'am.
Nancy, you've seen the KH-10 pictures?
Yeah.
And you know what they mean?
Well, I wouldn't go that far. Good evening, Mr. Vice President.
Good evening, Nancy. Leo.
Jack.
Stand up.
No, as you were, it's okay. Bobby, can you report on domestic activity?
Yes, sir. There's not much. Air traffic control is down for 22 minutes at Logan. Citibank computers are offline for a little more than an hour, and the lights went out for 7 minutes at the Delta Center.
Now, somebody tell me, these shooters, they didn't have a wallet on them, they didn't have a driver's license.
They didn't have anything on them, Mr. Vice President. They knew we were going to get them through the window.
If this signal guy isn't in custody in 1 hour, I'm going to federalize the Virginia and Maryland National Guard.
It's worth mentioning that at this moment, we do not know the whereabouts of about a half-dozen cell leaders, including bin Laden. But that's not my concern right now.
And what is your concern?
Can we look at the KH-10s?
I've seen them. I'm not worried about it.
Leo, these images show a sudden buildup of frontline Republican Guard units along the Tigris and Euphrates rivers.
The buildup isn't sudden. They do it every couple of months.
And they're moving south. Not 13 hours ago, they shot down an F-117 in the no-fly. The rescue mission invaded their airspace with armed M50 Pave Hawks, and my recommendation would be that the president order Fitzwallace to put the 32nd Tactical on ready alert and take us to DEFCON 4.
The president is under general anesthesia right now. If he weren't, I'm sure he'd be comforted by knowing that RDF can put Marines on the ground in 36 hours.
We may not have 36 hours.
The Iraqi Republican Guard can't find their car keys in 36 hours.
Look at the pictures, Mr. Vice President. I think they found them.
Nancy, we're gonna follow Leo for the moment.
Jack, what's the best way to get a message to Iraq?
King of Jordan.
Okay.
Leo, what do you want the message to be?
Don't mess with us tonight.
So, as you can see, the vice president is clearly the one in charge of this meeting. He does go with the option Leo provides, but it's Hoynes who makes the final decision. This is further cemented when Leo is asked what message they want to send to Iraq. He says, "Don't mess with us tonight," and then he looks at the vice president, who nods his accedance.